I used to believe in this thing. I mean, not believe, but I used to, consider this a lot. The idea that you are what you attract. And as much as that makes sense and it sounds, about right, and like, because even if it's not in romantic relationships, when it comes to social life, people that recognize each other will, attract each other. Sort of, if I'm Moroccan, I go into any store and there's another Moroccan, I'm like, oh, like I feel like it's my people, sort of, like you there's a familiarity that comes with the the identity thing, like, and people recognize each other on patterns that are different than their origins, like people who dress the same way, the same style, whatever, stuff like that. But I saw a video like not too long ago, and it made me realize there's a difference here. And it's not simply a question of attracting who we are, right? Because that becomes a bit problematic. There's a lot of cases where this doesn't make sense anymore. And one of them is that if you look at even celebrities, right? Like any celebrity. So is everybody that they attract like who they are, right? And this thing might not even seem like a big deal, right? But where this comes into play is that when we go out there in the world, and a lot of people struggle in their love life, where they find themselves in these relationships, right? And one thing that they seem to not understand is how come every time I get into a relationship, I always find myself with these types of situations. And in those cases, you could say, oh, you are what you attract. But it's not just that. You attract various things. You are what you entertain. And that's what the video was about. What you go and entertain becomes who you are. And that's such a pivotal thing from the other case of you attract what you are. Because to attract what you entertain makes so much more sense. You are everything that you are aware of, right? You are, if I'm aware of this city being a certain way, right? It must mean that somewhere I'm also aware of myself of being certain ways, right? And so if you had a great experience in this place and everything was great about it, well, it's because that positive energy was in you for you to be aware of it outside, right? But the difference between the two, right? For you to be aware of all these things, and the difference between what it actually is at a certain moment will depend on what you entertain, right? And the key thing here is that it gives you a sense of power as to the life that you can build, the life that you choose to create at any given point. And that's kind of deep, because that you can apply across the board, really. You can be aware of the world being super light, super amazing, all the way to super dark. But depending on what you entertain is going to create the reality that you live in at a certain point. You can walk into every type of environment and attract every kind of people. And let's say on a social level, on a romantic level, you can have people from all different backgrounds and all different archetypes or whatever, and all different desires. But the ones that you will go entertain conversations with, the ones that you'll go entertain presence with and give attention to, will create the reality that you experience, right? And that's huge, because it gives you power for you to be only what you attract. Kind of takes the power away from you. You just, oh, well, I attract these people, it means I'm this. Not true. It's not true. You can attract people for different goals, purposes, and motivations. You know, you can attract people for the wrong motivations. You could be the reason, you could be attractive to people because people feel like you could use them. You could be attracted to people because they feel like they could use you. And in both cases, here's the word attraction is at play. You see it? There's a phenomenon of attraction, but you know, based on the desires, they get pulled to one another. But it's this entertainment idea that is what you entertain, which is key. And that's what we can focus on our attention to in order to create the realities that we want. And where it links across the board is that when it comes to our thoughts, when it comes to our perspective, when it comes to the relationships that we want to build, well, then we can have a role to play into it. And so I guess the misconception that I wanted to address here for myself and for anybody watching is this idea that you're not only what you attract, you're actually what you choose to entertain. And it's not just about not having a say. The excuse of I want and I don't want are two perfectly valuable excuses to do or not do anything. And that's including entertaining relationships, entertaining conversations, being present at any place given or any given moment. What you choose to do doesn't require any more excuse than those two statements. And I think we should remember that, because the point of where the relationship that we entertain is a position of much more abundance than that position of you are what you attract. That question of what you choose to entertain gives you a question of choice. It gives you a question of you have a say. You can go and you know and pick. So I guess this is just a reminder that you do have a choice onto those things. I guess at the point in which you attract what you are is simply into the sense that it's true that you attract people that might be in the same position as you. You might attract people that you share a pattern with. You do attract people that that might struggle with the same problems as you, and that's why we end up in the same position. But that in itself, that way of looking at life, as you attract people that you share problems with, or that, you know, etc., that in itself is a question of perspective. Because if your perspective, your intentions are actually to grow beyond the limits of who you are right now and to be who you want to be, which requires a certain level of delusion and a rejection of and a willingness actually to live with risk, right? That in itself will mean that you sort of let go of that way of looking at life, and you forget that you attract what you are, and you actually look at life as that, as who is it that you want to become. And then you'll start looking at seeing people for who they could be, for who they are at their highest potential, and not at who they are at the present moment, right? Because, and now we're going into a sort of rant, but it is super relatable and necessary to this, is that you don't actually go and treat people for who they are, because it doesn't matter that much who they are, and it doesn't actually make sense and function in itself. You treat people for who you see them to be as. And based on that, it will be a demonstration of who you are as a person. And that's how, by treating them in the best that you see them as, will make you more attractive. And that's why people are more attractive, is that they see the best in themselves and they want to be the best that they could be based on who they are. And based on that approach, that light, they see the best in people. They start treating people as who they see them at their highest. And people like to be treated like that because it reminds them, damn, I could be more. And you lead them into seeing that for themselves. You unconsciously or consciously, you start to actually just leading them there by being who you are, by treating them in that way. And so it doesn't require for you to live at that point. It doesn't require for you to it doesn't require for you to go and get to know exactly who they are and whatever, because it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant who they are, as long as what really matters, the outcome, right, is who you want to be. And that's how I think we should approach these things. I guess the point of this video is pretty much just to say that you have a choice at this point on these fronts, and the choice that we have is actually an important thing, because the level of abundance is where your richness is. That place where you can actually realize the amount of choice that you have and the role that you have in control over your own life makes a big difference. And it puts you in a state of mind where you don't have to struggle as much on social levels, on personal levels, and where you can have more ease on people, and not every single thing has that much importance because of how you live in abundance. And the other points that we touch is that you don't have to get to know people as much as you think you do. You just have to treat them as the best that you see them as, because you're trying to be somebody that you want to be, and you start treating people as who you want them to be, which is the best that they could be. And that's how you'll become more, I guess, attractive, which is not necessarily the goal, but it's, I don't know anybody that would say no to that. Thank you for watching. I hope that makes sense. And if you got to this point, I have a school community that I opened. I hope that if you're interested, you can leave a comment, or it should be in the description, but I've been having trouble with the links in the description. Anything else? Yeah, let me know what other subjects you'd like to hear about, and I'll see you guys on the next one.